Hi everyone. In the previous video, we had shown you how to use expression language, which is a very simple language for accessing Java beans and their properties within them. Now, again, the point of this whole week's lesson is to effectively remove Java from our JSP files. However, accessing our Java beans is like a very, very tiny part of the Java programming language. To remove more Java code from our JSP files, we're going to use what's known as JSTL, or JSP Standard Tag Library, JSTL. And JSTL will allow us to use looping and branching in an XML format. It's kind of like programming via XML. It's very weird. But again, with JSTL, we'll be able to remove more Java code from our JSP files. First thing I'm going to do, though, one is I'm going to use the cat project that I made in the previous video, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to clean up that kitties servlet a little bit and the kitties.jsp file. Again, the whole purpose of this project is just to play with EL and JSTL. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this owner attribute. I'm going to delete that. And then nippers should really be added to this kitties list here. So I don't want to be having this separate kitty object over here and then this kitties array list. No, we're going to add nippers to that array list. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut that there. And we'll do kitties.add, and then we'll add nippers to our kitties list. And I'm going to go ahead and delete this code here. And I'm going to head over to our kitties.jsp file, and I'm going to delete all this stuff here. And we're going to start with a relatively clean slate. Again, I don't want to repeat all the previous work that we did in the other video looking at expression language, but I want to get off the ground and running a bit quicker. So, again, JSTL, the Java Server Page Standard Tag Library, is a great way to do Java-like programming. However, we need to first install JSTL. We need to get the libraries that allow us to use JSTL. The way we do that, Maven. So I'm going to open up my pom.xml, and then I'm going to select dependencies, and we're going to click the add button and type in JSTL. Now, there's a lot of different JSTL, like libraries and that sort of thing. We want this one, JSTL version 1.2. And we'll click OK. Again, I'm going to save this and make this asterisk go away. And we've now just installed JSTL. Again, you can see the JSTL library here under Maven dependencies. I didn't need to run an installer. I didn't need to go anywhere online. I just needed to, one, know the name of the group ID and artifact ID, and I was able to import JSTL very quickly. Now, to use JSTL tags, we do need to import the JSTL tag library, and the way we do that is with JSP element. Now, again, I can never remember what it's called. I'm going to go ahead and include this in the head. Again, I can never remember this one. I don't have it memorized. I do know that it's similar to this. I believe it's taglib. And then you're going to give this a prefix of C. And the C will come up in just a minute. Now, we also need to add a URI, or Uniform Resource Identifier. I have no idea what that is. I don't have it memorized. I'm going to come over here. There it is. There's the URI. In fact, I think I'm just going to paste in this whole JSP element here and save myself some pain. Make sure I type it right. There we are. I'm going to clean up these spaces. Okay, so this will import JSTL for us. It will import the JSTL core for us under a prefix of C. And you're going to see this C appear all the time. So now I've got JSTL imported. Now I can go ahead and use the JSTL tags. Now, The JSTL tags, they look just like XML. However, they all start with C:. They start with this prefix here. So they start with a C, colon, and then the name of the element. So the first one I'm going to show you is out. Out is used to output a value. This will output the value directly to our HTML file using JSTL. You don't need to use the JSP out object or that expression. This guy here, you don't need to use him. You can replace it with C out. And you can type in any value you want here. I love cats, for instance. Now, the C out is an XML element. It must be closed with a slash here. I don't believe this is valid syntax. Again, this is an XML element. You need to close it with this ending slash here. If you must do that per the XML. Now I'm going to go ahead and run this. And this will, again, output whatever's in that value. Again, I love cats. We can also output the value in our Java beans. We have a Java bean, a list of Java beans, rather, that contains all our cats. So I'm going to go ahead and I can include expression language right within this double quotes of this value attribute. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to output nippers. So I believe he is kitties. We use square brackets because I believe nippers is the first cat. And then we're going to do .name. And I'm going to go ahead and play this. And it should output nipper's name to the HTML document. And 404 error, I've got the wrong URL. And again, nipper's name came out. Now, you might be asking yourself, well, Steve, the C out is great. Well, what about, why can't I just do this by itself? What's the big deal? Well, if you remember from the previous video, we had added less than to nipper's name. Now, if I go look at the page source for this, and I do view page source, you can see that the JSTL tag has changed that less than to the HTML entity ampersand LT semicolon, which is again the entity for the less than sign using HTML. So JSTL has done that automatically for us, which is very nice. That's nice, and this is dangerous. This whole way isn't, and it will automatically print that out for us, formatted without violating any HTML markup. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this broken one. So again, we can use this element for outputting things, but we can do much more than output. We can also create variables using JSTL, using the set element. Now, with the set element, we can actually make a variable that we can use later. So what we do is we use var as an attribute, and we'll give it a name. Let's say the cost cat food variable, and we can give it a value. Let's say the cost of cat food, we've got these cats look pretty hungry. Let's say it's $250 in cat food per month. And that will allow us to set a variable using JSTL. Now I'm going to clean this up. I'm going to use the XML shorthand of putting a slash here. And this will create a variable that we can use within JSTL. Now let's see, I should be able to do cout value. And I'm going to use $, and I'm going to include some expression language. And we'll say cost cat food. Right here, and I'll go ahead and click play. And again, this should make a variable called cost of cat food using JSTL, and then output it using the CL. In from URL, 250 bucks. Huzzah. Now, this is good. We can emulate setting variables like we did in Java, but using XML elements. Again, we can do much more than that. I can actually do branching in JSTL language, and we can use branching with the C:choose element. And C:choose works very similar to an if statement that we use in Java, except it's called C:choose. And inside that C:choose element, we're going to say C:when. And then we're going to give this when element a test attribute. And we'll eventually tell it what to test for. So if what I write in here is true, the JSTL will output whatever's in here. If it's false, it should be ignored. So I'm going to use some expression language. Again, we can write little less thans and greater thans within expression language. And we're going to say if the cost of cat food is less than, I'm going to change this I'm going to get rid of that $sign there. I'm going to say if cost of cat food is less than $200, we're going to say not spending enough on our precious kitties. And we're also going to add another conditional here, another when. You can add as many whens as you want. We'll add another test, and we'll say if the cost of cat food is greater than or equal to 200. And we'll end that guy there. And then we'll say something like, you could always spend more on cat food. And we'll go ahead and click play. Again, what we should see is that if this test is true, we'll execute the code in here. If not, we should see this execute. So I'll go ahead and click play. And we should see you could always spend more on cat food. Excuse me, the first thing we'll see is a 404 error. Now we can see you could always spend more on cat food. Again, if I change this to 100 bucks, click play again. Click play again. Okay, we'll crash this guy the hard way. Yes, thank you. We'll crash this guy the hard way. We'll right-click the server, press stop. Now I'm going to go ahead and click play. And we should see not spending enough on our precious little kitties. Excuse me, we'll see a 404 error, and then we will see not spending enough on our precious kitties. Okay. So again, the choose is like creating the choose is like creating an if block, and this is like creating an if or if else block. So again, we've got our conditional here: less than or equal to, greater than, equals to. Within our when. We could also say otherwise, so otherwise would be like our else. I'm going to go ahead and delete this element here, and we'll use the otherwise element. Again, the otherwise element is just like an else block. I'll go ahead and put that here. And we'll say, we'll repeat the same message, not spending enough on our, excuse me. The message was, you could always spend more on our cats. Sure, whatever. So again, this when is like an if, this otherwise is like an else. Apparently there's some illegal text in there. Oh, it doesn't like my HTML comments. I'll go ahead and delete those. Okay. Sorry, JSTL. Go ahead and run this. Type in the correct URL. And again, less than 100, not spending enough on our kitties. That's great. That's great. And we'll just prove the other block real quickly. Set this to 300. And this is how we can use branching within a JST file to generate dynamic content server side. Again, it's kind of goofy. It's almost like programming using XML is really quite odd. But again, XAML works very similar to this. In fact, XAML probably stole it from JSTL. So we can do more than branching. We can also create a for loop. So this is like creating a for each loop using JSTL. We can do something very similar. For looping, we use C, lowercase c, the same as the prefix, and then the for each element. And for each will allow us to loop over elements. We can loop over simple numbers. We can create a simple loop, or we can loop over all the cats, which I'll show you in a moment. So for this for each loop, I'm going to say a variable I, iterator, just like we would use for regular for loops. It's pretty common. And we'll say that I is going to begin at 0, and it's going to end at 3. And we'll use a cout to output the value of I. And again, I'm going to use expression language to grab that value of I. Do something like that. And again, this is just a simple loop that'll start at 0 and end at 3. I think it'll print 4 times now. So I'm going to go ahead and click my servlet this time and click play. And it should create a very simple loop using JSTL. 0, 1, 2, 3, positively riveting. And again, you can write all kinds of HTML code. We could add VR elements here to clean it up. We could loop over and create a table if we wanted to, and do so very quickly. But we can do more powerful things with for each. For instance, we've got that list of cats, and I'm going to iterate over each of those cat Java Bean elements. So I'm going to say, I'm going to create another for loop. We'll say for each. And we're going to say items this time. Instead of using a variable I, we're going to say items, and we'll say our items is our kitties. And then our variable, in this case, instead of saying I, we're going to say kitty. And we will output information for each of that, for each of our cats. Now I'm going to rearrange these so that it reads a bit nicer. So for each kitty in kitties, we're going to do something. Let's go ahead and output the cat's name using expression language. In this case, we would type in kitty here. Again, remember I deleted that kitty variable over here, otherwise this would conflict real bad. So we're going to say kitty dot name. And I'm going to go ahead and add another expression language. We'll add its age. We'll add its color and its favorite food. And then we'll add a quick BR. And this will dump out all the access of each of our kitties and output an H2 for each of those cats. What a ridiculous website. Anyway, I'll play that. And again, we're going to loop over each kitty in our kitties list. I really hope my wife never sees this video. Seems I've got a little bit of a mistake. Exception occurred. Sure did. Name property not found. Really? Interesting, interesting, interesting. They were called name, yes? Yes, this is called name. Interesting. Interesting. I'd expected this to work. I wonder what I am forgetting. Let me pause this and we'll debug it real quickly. Okay. After a little debugging, I think I've got it. First, variable should not be in expression language syntax. So for instance, in items, we are accessing the kitties list that we passed in from our kitties servlet. However, the variable named kitty should not be an expression language. For instance, we shouldn't see something like this. We should not be doing that. Next, we need to make sure that we're using cout inside our H2 elements and paragraph elements. So I'll show you how to do that. Now again, this for each loop is going to iterate over each of our kitties in our kitties list. So I'm going to make an H2, and now I'm going to use cout to output the name of that cat. So I'm going to say the value using expression language is going to be kitty.name. And I'm going to go ahead and click play. And again, I should see, well, yet again, the wrong page, 404. But now we can see we are outputting the names of the cats here. And likewise, I could go in and I could add a paragraph element and add another cout, and I could output their age. So we could say value is age colon, and then the $ kitty dot age, so I can access the cat's age. Press play. And now I can loop through and output their names and their ages as well. And again, names, ages, and we could output their colors, and we could do all kinds of great stuff like that. So this was intended to be a very brief overview of JSTL. Again, we looked at how we can output values using cout. We looked at how to set variables using the cset element. We looked at how we could branch over different choices using JSTL to replace an if block, like in Java. So using this when block inside cchoose, we can test different conditions and do something if that condition is true, or we could implement an else block called otherwise here. And we can create simple loops where we could loop through from 0 to 3, 0 to 500, whatever. And we can also loop through Java lists or Java arrays, that sort of thing. Now, Again, this video was intended to be a very broad overview of JSTL and some of the core elements. There's a lot to JSTL, more than what I shared before. So if I head over to my quick tutorial on JSTL, we could see there's actually a tag library for formatting, so we could actually format numbers. For instance, we could format our numbers to have a certain number of decimal types, or we could have them output a currency values. We could put dollar signs in front of them. And we could set certain time zones. It looks like they have tags for SQL. It looks like they have tags for XML as well. There are also JSTL functions, and we could see if for instance, our array list contained a specific cat. We could try to find if that cat was in there or not. And so there's a lot to JSTL, to basically, all with the goal of removing Java. So again, I hope this video is helpful, and again, it's intended to be a broad level overview. I would encourage you to check out either Tutorials Point or the textbook to get a deeper idea of JSTL and what you're capable of doing with it. Certainly ask me any questions that you have with JSTL, and again, thanks for watching.